Hello, I'm Tony, and today I'm looking at Kerbal Space Program, currently free from the Epic Games Store until the 12th of January 2023. I have to admit, while I've played about 7 hours of this game, I've barely scratched the surface, though I have managed to achieve orbit. The best way to describe this game is a space agency simulator, and if that sounds a bit daunting, yeah, it is. You take responsibility for running the space program for the Kerbals, a minion-esque race of pretty cheerful creatures. One was still happy and smiling as they drifted away from the planet into outer space. Unfortunately, no footage of the disaster remains, so no one can prove if it was due to my poor flying skills, for example. First stop for all budding rocket scientists and pilots should be the tutorials. The tutorials take you through the basics of creating and flying rockets, up to flying to the Mun, the closest Kerbal moon, and even deflecting asteroids from crashing into the planet Kerbin, which is where you are. These throw a lot of information at you, but in a way that allowed me at least to create a basic rocket and achieve a flight into space without any aid when playing the main career mode. I did need to go back to the tutorials a couple of times though. A bit of a tip, when you're doing the tutorials, don't try and preempt them and make sure you read all the text carefully, because I had them crap out on me a couple of times because I did one part of the instructions out of order and it just stopped working and I had to restart. Once you hopefully have the basics down, you can jump into one of the various game modes. These are split into scenarios, science mode, career mode, and an open sandbox mode. The scenarios range from simple spaceflight to off-planet mining, and really test the skills that you hopefully have learnt up until this point. I tried to land the space shuttle analog in the game, and it didn't go very well. There are 16 standard missions, and then another 3 that replicate real-world European Space Agency missions, which is really cool. Okay, on to the other modes of play. Career mode is what I think of as the main game, where you start off with a basic setup for your space program, and you need to manage your money, reputation and personnel as you pick up contracts, pursue strategies to raise money, reputation or a specific operational benefit, and of course fly spaceships. You can embark on missions of your own or pick up the contracts I mentioned and try to get reports from your pilots and results from experiments that you can attach to your craft to gain science points, which you then use to advance your research, which unlocks new parts to build better spaceships and allows you to undertake more ambitious missions. There are 9 areas in your space agency plot. 2 hangars where you build either rocket ships or space shuttles, plus a launch pad or runway to launch them, or runway them. You have a building for research, admin offices to handle your strategic goals, mission control for your contracts, a very nice building to hire and manage your astronauts, and a tracking station that lets you recover your craft, and also look at the map of the solar system. That building is where I got a real feel for the scope of the game, because it's a pretty big solar system, it's got plenty in it, and as far as I can tell, it's going to be possible to go anywhere that your tech allows you to go. All of the buildings are upgradable, giving you access to more options, allowing more parts to be stored at a time, that kind of thing, which obviously allows for increasingly complex craft. Once you've built a ship or shuttle, you then get to fly it. Personally, I found this bit to be the hardest. I'm no rocket scientist, but I'm even less of an astronaut. The game runs on a real-world physics engine, so it's realistic, I think. Things feel like they go out of control as quickly as you would expect them to when you're travelling at thousands of miles an hour. You overcorrect on pitching or yawing or all the other words that mean moving, and yeah, it can be really catastrophic. You may have the option of letting your pilot stabilise the ship But even then, you can take control yourself and still really mess things up. Getting into orbit, for example, is pretty hard because you need to take care of minor things like ensuring the rocket is rotated the correct way when building it to make sure you're pointing in the right direction at the launch pad. Because you can't just turn it, it's not a car. Those sort of details really matter with rockets. If you don't want to worry about the whole research, money thing, Sandbox mode gives you everything. Every single part and bit of technology and all the money you want to let you do whatever you want without restrictions. This does mean that the research, admin and mission control buildings are maxed out but closed, though every other building is available. There is a lot of parts, and I don't know anything about most of them at this point, but it's perfect if you want to test things out or do something really crazy, or crazily ambitious. Alternatively, there is science mode, which opens the research back up again, so you do need to do those science experiments to progress and get more parts. But mission control and admin are closed, and all the other buildings are fully upgraded, so it's kind of career mode without the headache of money, but with the headache of no parts until you do the research. That's a relatively brief description of this game, because there's loads of mods and add-ons available that no doubt expand on the game greatly. And I've really not been able to explain how much knowledge you need to pick up in order to play the game properly. A couple of examples. You need to have your craft at the correct angle as you take off, and change it at specific speeds at multiple points in the flight to achieve orbit. You need to know those things, you don't get told them, except in the tutorial. You need to think about setting stage separations on your rockets, making sure each part is in the correct part of the stages. Thinking through what thrusters and power sources you'll need for each mission. You need to take account of centre of gravity, since it shifts when fuel's expended, and putting your aerodynamic fins in the wrong place will destabilise your rocket. That's just literally off the top of my head. There are so many more things to consider. And that's on top of learning the resource management side of the game, which is what you'd expect to have to learn for a normal game. What this all means is that there is a steep learning curve to this game. You're not going to be picking this up and playing it for a few hours and having a blast. You need to buckle down and learn your space maths, damn it. But for those that enjoy resource management games and maybe flight simulators as well, this could be right up your street. Or runway? Launchpad? You just need to give yourself a fair bit of time to get into the game. If I had time, i.e. if I wasn't reviewing all the free games every month, I could get into this. It's fascinating, it's really challenging, and I felt like I was running a space agency and that space is hard. It's not going to appeal to most people, I don't think. But for those that it does, and hopefully this review gives you an idea of what the game's about, so you can tell if it is for you or not, I think it's really going to deliver. It's a very qualified recommend for the right people from me. Just make sure you got time. I need to come back down to earth safely, so I'm off. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.